This is a little system that doesn't need an introduction, but I'm gonna give it one anyway. So here is the Nintendo GameCube. Released here in North America 16 years ago, this very uniquely designed system helped create a lot of wonderful, beautiful memories for tens of millions of people, myself included, and some of us still even play to this day, and it's one of the four major consoles of the 6th generation. And unlike its two main rivals, the Xbox and the PlayStation 2, the GameCube had an exclusive focus on games, like the ones you see in the background, although not really, because those aren't for GameCube. And it pretty much was the last system from a major company to have that focus, because although the Wii mostly had that in mind as well, it still did the Netflix and the YouTube and other features that were basically apps, as we like to call them today. I own 3 different GameCubes. Now, do I need 3 GameCubes? No, nobody needs more than one GameCube or a Wii if you have a backwards compatible Wii. If the GameCube that you have, or the Wii, happens to work as well as it should, so you can actually play games without any problems and such. But I ended up with 3 because 2 of them were gifts, and the third one that I got just a couple of weeks ago, which is this one, the one that I showed in the intro with the Game Boy player, it was just there, and it was cheap, and it was a golden nugget in the pile of turd of garbage that this fat man was selling at the swap meet that I went to, where I found it, that I've been going to for years. So I thought, I can't just take the Game Boy player and leave the GameCube there. So I adopted it and I brought it to my home because I am a very good home for video game systems and games. I will take care of them. So I thought, even if I wanted to just take the Game Boy player, what if the man said, nope, I only sell it with the system? And I had to save the system and give it a good home. So I thought, whatever, I had to take it. So I took it, even though I already had 2. And besides, that one that I bought works perfectly well. It has no issues in the time that I've used it, in this month or so that I've had it. And unlike these 2, which do have issues, this one does not read discs. It worked at first a while back, a couple of years ago, and it was covered in stickers. So some little kid or kids owned it, and they had it covered in a couple of stickers, and I had to remove the stickers and I had to get a wet cloth and wipe it clean and do a bunch of stuff so I could leave it as pristine as it currently is, and I have it stored away when I don't use it so it doesn't get covered in dust. Same with the other 2, although I've had this one set up recently. And this black one, as you can see, has a lid that does not shut, and this was a gift from an uncle that found it outside an abandoned home or something like that. I don't remember exactly what the story was, but it made me very sad because I thought, who could leave a system that works, especially, maybe if it didn't work I'd understand a little bit, although that's still console cruelty, but who could just leave a system out in a dumpster or a trash can, whatever it was? And that same uncle also brought me a Sega Genesis. And it was the same thing. I don't remember if it was at different times, but that's the story. And I just couldn't say no. He told me, since I know you like games, you gotta take it. So I had to give that one a good home as well. My grandmother sent me this one, and same thing. I just can't look at a game system and say, no, I gotta have it. So out of the 3, this is the only one that works as it should. This one works fine, provided that you put something on top of the lid like a thick book or another GameCube, so you can have a GameCube tower and you can play with double the GameCube power. You see what I did there? That rhymed. Yeah. But out of the 3, there's only one that works well. But GameCubes are awesome. The GameCube, as we all know, has a power button up on the top left corner here that has a very satisfying gift to it. I'd press this baby forever like I have a need for a fidget spinner, but I like to take care of my shit, so I don't do that. We don't want it to get busted much sooner than it needs to, huh? And then that classic Nintendo logo is found up here on the top right corner, which just looks sexy as hell, all engraved into the plastic like it is. And then you have the open button here that opens the disc tray, obviously, and thankfully the button on this one works fine after all these years. And then on this corner over here you have the reset button, and of course the big black Nintendo GameCube logo in this black circle here, and the orange LED below it that lets you see that it's powered on when you actually press the power button. And it looks fucking sick once you actually do turn it on. Something that Nintendo's always gotten due credit for is carrying on the tradition of including not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 controller ports, just like its older brother, the Nintendo 64, and that obviously means that you can play with up to 3 other players. Aha! And that's a feature that'll never get old, because as prevalent as online gaming has been for the past, 10 to 15 years now, playing online with strangers who will yell at you about how they fucked your mom and that you're a noob with no life because you either kick their ass or they kick yours in a game of COD just doesn't compete with playing with people you do know in the same room and with games that are played offline and don't require internet to enjoy. And of course, the GameCube sports 2 memory card slots, letting you save your progress in countless games, so you can pick up right where you left off in your adventure mode in Smash Bros. Melee, or in your Path of Champions in WrestleMania 18, or in Sonic Triple Trouble off of Gems Collection. And these babies have a long lifespan. I've had these for a while now, and they have data from games that I and others started years ago. And that's kick-ass. I love these things. I grew up with memory cards being the way to store your game data before a lot of us needed 2 terabyte SSDs to store gigantic 80 gigabyte games. The system also has fan vents on its left and right sides to help keep the system cool. I don't ever remember holding a GameCube that was hot, so they get the job done. And on the back, you have, of course, this carrying handle so that you can take it with you wherever you want, because that was a big selling point of this system when it was initially introduced by Nintendo. The fact that you could grab it by the handle and take it to your neighbor's house, your friend's house, and you could hook it up and play it over there. The Japanese always with their focal point on portability. They like their portable games. And in the back, you have 2 ports, one for the DC in and one for the AV cord. So you can just pop those suckers into the system and then on the TV, and you're set after you turn it on for a game of Mario Kart Double Dash. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is simplicity at its finest. And I, of course, can't leave out the excellent Game Boy Player, which you've seen attached to the system throughout the entirety of this video. And as I mentioned earlier, I found this like this attached to the system, and the fat man that sold it to me didn't know what he was selling because he gave it to me for 100 pesos with the system, and 100 pesos is just a couple of US dollars, like 7 or 8 approximately right now. But the Game Boy Player is probably the best way to play Game Boy games on a good old school CRT television, provided of course that you have the Game Boy Player itself, a handful of Game Boy, Game Boy Color, or Game Boy Advance games, and the actual Game Boy Player disc, which is required for you to actually be able to use a damn thing. And I don't actually have the Game Boy Player disc, so I'm gonna have to hunt down a copy sometime in the future, although I've heard in years past that it does not come cheap because those are scarce. It's not like they're making them anymore. But that's the Game Boy Player, and that's the GameCube itself. You can see in here that I have Namco Museum for the Game Boy Advance, which is an excellent little collection, and I'll make a video on that sometime in the future. And that about wraps it up for Nintendo's little video game lunchbox. Everything that I've said in this video probably isn't news to most of you unless you're a younger kid that didn't get to grow up with a GameCube back in its heyday, or you're a person that's just getting into gaming or just into the GameCube in particular. And although the system didn't do so well in comparison to the PlayStation 2, it's still remembered very fondly by people like me, and there are people like me that still play it on and off to this day that still own at least one, and that's pretty awesome because the memory of the GameCube should never die. But what do you think about the GameCube? Do you still play it today? What games do you have for it? Let me know with a comment, of course, below, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And if you're on Instagram, Unlimited Bits is on Instagram as well, at Unlimited Bits, and I put that right here on the screen, right here on the bottom. It's nice and easy for you, so you can just type it all out on your phone or your tablet or whatever it may be. But until then, this was Unlimited Bits Gaming, and I'll catch you here for the podcast episode or for another video like this. We'll see you later.